All right, welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet. Prime Minister Modi has welcomed the Donald Trump's plan for ending the conflict in Gaza. He said that it provides a viable pathway for sustainable peace for Israeli and Palestinian people. He also expressed hope that all concerned will come together behind President Trump's initiative and support this effort to end the conflict and secure peace. This comes after the US President announced his plan of ending the war in Gaza in the presence of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu during the latter's visit to the White House. The peace proposal has been accepted by Israel, and apart from India, several countries across the world have welcomed the plan, including Canada, Qatar, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Indonesia, Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. What does this mean for the world at large? We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Ambassador KP Fabian, former diplomat, Major General Shashi Asthana, Senior Defense Expert, former DG Infantry, Adit Kothari, Foreign Affairs Expert, and last but not the least, Professor Madhav Nalapat, Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian, also joins us on the program. Professor Nalapat, I'll begin with you. So, at this point in time, perhaps it's just conjecture as to what the nitty-gritties and the finer details of this plan are likely to be. But I'm just going to go by. I'm going to go out on a limb on what Donald Trump has done or what he's announced in the past, which has in all probability not come true. Won't it be a better proposition to work on the plan, have these parties discuss this, mull over it, huddle over it, and then when they're ready to announce that they've agreed upon this plan, then announce it? Usually, whenever something is done or announced in haste, it's a waste.
You're quite right, Vineet. And I'd like to point out that Prime Minister Modi has warmly welcomed the Trump peace plan for Gaza. The only problem is that Hamas has yet to approve the plan. And President Trump has given Hamas a deadline of 72 hours to either approve the plan or face a massive Israeli assault, which the United States will provide full support. So I think that will concentrate minds in Gaza very, very clearly. My own view has been for a long time that Hamas should release all the remaining Israeli hostages, whether they are still alive. And unfortunately, some of them will no longer be alive. But Hamas should release them as a gesture of goodwill. And that would have gone a long way towards molding public opinion in the whole world, especially in Israel. So the reality of the situation is that the hostage situation has been going on for a very long time, and the fate of the hostages who are alive are still unknown. So I think, very frankly, Vineet, on this particular peace plan, there is no doubt that if Hamas accepts the peace plan, then there is a pathway to peace. But the problem is if Hamas accepts the peace plan and implements it fully in letter and spirit. So I think those are the issues facing this particular plan. But I'm glad that the Prime Minister has welcomed President Trump's initiative. It is a very welcome initiative. This has gone a long time, and frankly, a terrible amount of human casualties have been lost, initially on the Israeli side and subsequently on the side of the people in Gaza. They've been suffering something, close to hell, frankly, for quite some time. And I think if the fighting stops, it's very good for the people of Gaza and very good for the whole world. And that's why so many world leaders have welcomed the plan. And Prime Minister Modi has given a particularly warm welcome to the plan and said he hopes that all parties will abide by it, by which he clearly means Hamas, because Israel has already indicated that the plan is acceptable to Israel. And that's a huge concession by Prime Minister Netanyahu, because till now he was denying the existence of any Palestinian state, whether Gaza or the West Bank. But now he is in effect saying that Gaza is fine, and obviously then the West Bank will follow. That's a huge concession on the Israeli part, and I hope Hamas does the right thing, releases all the hostages, and follows this plan, because that is the only way out for the people of Gaza who have been suffering horribly since this conflict erupted a couple of years ago. Beneath.
All right, absolutely right, sir. General Asthana, 66,000 people have been killed since October 7th, 2023, in the last approximately 24 months. What do you think this plan could be all about? And Hamas has not agreed to it. There have been many such plans which have come out in the past as well. There was one that got very close to a resolution, if I'm not wrong. It was when Yasser Arafat was still alive and Bill Clinton was the president. But I think the Prime Minister of Israel was assassinated and that plan never took off. What do you think this plan could be all about? Because, as far as I know and I understand, and I'm sure you also concur, that regardless of whatever Israel and America has proposed in the past, Palestine, the West Bank, and at large the Arab community has always refused to follow it to the hilt.
Certainly, there will be hitches as far as Hamas is concerned, but let's go by the content of the plan. Firstly, I think it's a welcome plan, and in case this plan is accepted by Hamas by any stretch of imagination, I think it can be a stepping stone for peace in Palestine. At least the agony of so many Gazans will get saved who are actually fighting starvation. That's number one. Number two, as far as the plan is concerned, I heard the discussion as well as the what the statements both gave out. It does cater for the release of hostages, certainly. And as Professor Nalapat said, there is a big concession by Israel because they were not agreeing for a Palestinian state. This gives a possibility of a Palestinian state after the interim arrangement is over. So, therefore, there is a possibility. Now, as far as Hamas is concerned, they will have no role in governance and they have to disarm. Now, there are two apprehensions of Hamas. One is, let's say hypothetically, we disarm and Israel finds some excuse which it has done in past, and after that we all are massacred. It's not that we get a safe haven as has been promised in the plan. Then what happens? So there will be deliberations. I think Qataris are trying to work it out with them. 72 hours have been given. Let's see how it goes. PIJ has rejected it outright, and the Israelis are also, in a way, as I heard President Netanyahu yesterday, they are hoping that Hamas should reject it, and thereafter we should carry on till cows come home or finish the job, as Netanyahu says, because they are hell-bent on destroying and killing every Hamas guy if they can help it. That's number one. Number two, as far as Netanyahu is concerned, he is actually, he may have come under pressure. He's come under tremendous pressure because President Trump also made him speak to the Emir of Qatar, and in a way, it was almost like an apology of having fired there. But because there are certain major implications which have happened, the the Saudi Arabia Pakistan defense agreement. Now that is not very comfortable arrangement, and also even from Indian perspective, if this plan goes through, I think nothing like it as far as India is concerned. The reason is that because of the turbulence in Northeast created by initially on the 7th October and thereafter the Israelis' response, the situation is that Pakistan has found a new relevance in the turbulent West Asia, and this new relevance is not very comfortable to India. And USA has found a new relevance in Pakistan, whether it is Iran issue, whether it was this deal which has happened. So once this gets resolved, then I think some more rationality will follow, and perhaps Pakistan may not see the kind of relevance or the importance which has been given to Pakistan. So that is from the Indian perspective. As far as we will have to wait and see as to how Hamas responds. There are still 3 days to go. We will have to wait and see. I think that would be perhaps most appropriate. Vineet.
All right. Ambassador Fabian, your analysis, sir? whether this ideology or separate states for the Jews and the Arabs is something that Palestine and the surrounding areas are going to be okay with, because the fundamental feud is about who came to this part of the world first, and the Arabs and the people who inhabit this area haven't stopped believing it.
Thank you. If you want me to go back to the beginning, if you read the Genesis, it is clear that Abraham, from whom is descended, or are descended, the Jews and the Arabs, he went to Palestine. Okay? So Palestine was there even before the Jews reached there. But I don't think that is a valid argument. Quoting religious texts for your territorial ambitions, that's not a good idea. But let me make a few points. I'm afraid the distinguished speakers have declined to use plain English. In plain English, Netanyahu has been carrying on a genocide. And this has been said by the UN. Anyone who watches BBC knows it, Al Jazeera knows it, and even the International Court of Justice said almost in same words, and also the ICC, Criminal Court. So let us speak in plain English. Let us not speak only of the hostages. Well, taking hostages is wrong, and they should be released. But anyway, also a mention was made about 65 or 68,000? Well, the figure is wrong, because there are thousands who are under the rubble. This is bodies counted. So that's point number one. Next point is that Netanyahu has not accepted it. He has stated categorically there is no question of a Palestinian state. We shall stop it by force. You can read the Times of Israel, you can read the Harris. So that is that. And now historically, ever since its foundation in 1947-48, the first prime minister was David Ben-Gurion. From David Ben-Gurion till Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli prime ministers have been consistent in not acting according to the agreements they signed. Only exception was, a previous speaker mentioned that about Oslo Accords 1993, and Yitzhak Rabin, who signed it, was murdered in 1995 by extremists led by, I repeat, led by Netanyahu, because in March 1995, he led a procession which carried a coffin where it was written, Yitzhak Rabin. So that is where we are. But as to the question whether Hamas will accept it, I can see that they have no choice but to accept it, because Trump has made it clear, if they don't accept it, the genocide will continue, and the Arab states which have accepted, the 8 who sat down with Trump, they have accepted, so Hamas will lose all political support from the Arabs. So Hamas will most probably, I'm not going to predict, will accept it, but this is not a good deal. And the last point, if you read the text, and I have read it more than once, and I also went through the night, I saw the talks and all that, it is clear. It says that once the Palestinian Authority has reformed itself and created the conditions, then it can take over. But there is a little, slip, because at this moment, Netanyahu is doing his utmost to divide the West Bank into two. And he is sending more settlers there. In fact, his finance minister had said, these countries are recognizing Palestine. We will make sure that it is erased on the map. So the situation is rather complicated and is not as sanguine as some of our speakers have implied.
All right. Fair enough, sir. Adit, well, if this resolution was so easy, why wasn't it implemented earlier on? And how different is it likely to be? in terms of the hostilities that have prevailed for the last couple of years. I'm not sure even if Hamas is going to agree to it on paper. They will agree to it on land. This is something which has been rooted in historical relevance, that regardless of the wars and the friction that has taken place between Israel and Palestine, there has been some cores at the fundamental. Unless they are addressed, do you really think that we are looking at a long-term solution? I think not.
And I would concur with you, Vineet. Look, honestly, it's Hamas which is holding not the world, not the people of Israel hostage, but the people of Palestine as hostage.
Absolutely.
And that is where the problem lies. And Netanyahu as well is holding the people of Israel hostage.
Can I tell you something? Of all the people that have died, all right, in fact, if the casualties are to be accounted for, there are 66,000 people that have died. It's a very interesting one. That's why I interjected you. Hamas has only lost 1% of its force. What does that tell you?
Which is why it is in their interest not to accept this particular deal, because
that means they've been pushing civilians in front of these bombs.
Exactly. They've literally been using them as shields, only to further their political interests, only to ensure that they can play their politics with Israel for their, whatever their end goal is. And they're doing that by using asymmetric warfare. They're using that by using terrorism as a means to basically achieve their political objectives. But the flip side here is, from a US, Arab, and Israel perspective, they've been able to carve up some sort of an axis. They've been able to carve up some sort of an understanding, and it sort of potentially also thaws the Abraham Accord expansions. Someone like a Pakistan coming into the sphere and sort of applauding President Trump's mediation in the Israel-Gaza war, goes to demonstrate how much of political change even a state like Pakistan may have had to undergo. Because it's domestically, this is almost like a suicide for anybody sitting in Pakistan to say anything of the kind of dimensions that Shehbaz Sharif has gone out to say. So the Arab, Israel, and US axis is forming, and that basically demonstrates that there is some sort of a fundamental agreement that yes, we need security, we need trade to sort of boost, and the only way we can achieve that is by ensuring that Hamas is completely obliterated. And number two is, which is the most important part of it, is Iran is completely isolated. So this plan basically creates that sort of US Sunni alliance, which basically completely alienates Iran and completely puts it into a sort of a Russia-Sino camp. Now that will basically make things very interesting from a geopolitical perspective in the coming days. Even from an Indian perspective, with all of the restrictions being imposed on the Chahabar port, make India in a very contentious position. How does India actually navigate through these challenging times? We have 45 days to basically close all operations down at the moment. And India has been playing a very important role through the Chahabar port into the Taliban areas, sending aid, and even sending goods into Europe. It cuts down shipping times by about 40%, cuts down our financial costs by about 30%. So the Chahabar port is a very key element which the United States themselves had agreed in 2018 to make certain reservations for. So they now coming into the dimension and saying that you cannot use this anymore, puts up India in a tough spot, which India will have to navigate through in the coming times. Vineet.
Absolutely. Professor Nalapat, I don't know how to put this, but I'm going to try, sir. Palestine may agree to this resolution, but will Hamas agree to this resolution?
Vineet, quite frankly, we have to wait and see about that. But I don't think Hamas will agree. Basically, disarm, because once that is done, they're completely at the mercy of Israel, and that's something that Prime Minister Netanyahu has been waiting for. So quite frankly, about Qatar and Turkey and Pakistan, I mean, these three countries are frankly, I mean, the question is whether at least one of them, Pakistan, has any real interest in peace. As has correctly been said by the general, the Pakistan relevance is high. Precisely, one of the big reasons is the Gaza conflict. So I'd like to say that in my view, it's a bit doubtful that Hamas is going to accept this particular agreement. And as you correctly said, the reality of the situation is that Israel cannot tolerate another terror attack on the scale of October 7, 2023. That was a horrible attack, and it brought back the most terrible memories of the previous century to the Jewish people. And may I point out that Israel has got a sizable Arab community. It's not that Israel is a completely Jewish state. They are a Jewish state, but the Arab is a very large Arab component, and they live very peaceably, almost all of them, within Israel as Israeli citizens. So I'd like to point out that that it's a very complex situation. If President Trump does succeed in a ceasefire, well, I think that's an achievement that should qualify him. Most likely for the Nobel. But the question is, will he succeed? And I think we'll know quite soon whether he succeeds or not. But in my personal view, the Israelis are not going to stop until they have a complete demilitarization of Gaza and ensure that their security is safe and no longer subject to the kind of possibility of an October 7, 2023 kind of an attack. I think Hamas, frankly, committed harakiri on itself by that particular attack because it has awakened latent, feelings in the Jewish psyche, and they're quite understandable given the history of the Jewish community. So I'd again like to say, Vineet, I certainly would welcome the onset of peace. I certainly believe that the people of Gaza have suffered very terribly. They have suffered ever since 2005 when the territory came under the control of Hamas, and Hamas frankly liquidated all those who were actively anti-Hamas. So don't forget, Hamas has got a terrible record of dealing with the Gazan people ever since it came to power. So given the kind of organization that Hamas is, and given the kind of determination that Prime Minister Netanyahu has, I'm not holding my breath waiting for peace to break out in Gaza. Thank you, Vineet.
All right, Journalist Thana, fair enough, Professor Nalapat, but what about the elephant in the room, Journalist Thana? Iran. What kind of a deal, is Israel supposed to do with them? Because if you still have proxies being erected and funded by Iran, then obviously the problem is not solved, is it?
As far as Iran is concerned, certainly the problem is not solved, and Iran's determination to continue with the bomb, they may say differently, may say different things, but certainly they are not going to hand over the enriched uranium as Americans are trying to tell them for the exchange of some sanctions being removed or things like that. So that's not going to happen. So therefore this Iran nexus and Iran will stay, and Iran-Israel rivalry is there to stay. But I want to clarify a few issues. Firstly, let's be very clear. As far as overall aim of Israel and especially Netanyahu is concerned, he wants greater Israel. That means West Bank, Gaza and Israel, the entire territory should be of Israel, and everybody else has to be a second-class citizen there. It's a Jewish territory. That is what is his overall aim. He will find ways and means to achieve that aim. And this present peace plan which has been proposed is basically to shut everybody, because they were the Israel as well as Americans were coming under a lot of global criticism. So now what they have done is they have made out some kind of plan which seems to be logical in some manner to the rest of the world, perhaps in a manner that let Hamas refuse it, and then their genocide, continued genocide, will get justified. As Ambassador was mentioning, I don't think anyone of us got any kind of doubt that it is genocide going on, and nobody is trying to, shall I say, shield that genocide part of it. Let's be very clear on that. But notwithstanding that, the question is, should this genocide continue? If this peace plan can succeed, hypothetically, then certainly the Gazans who are suffering genocide every day, maybe that they get spared at least. So, as a rational thinker, I am very sure that we should hope for peace. That's one part of it. Secondly, as far as the Palestinian territory is concerned, this is a struggle on. Israel is not going to give it to them so easily. And as far as the prospects of Palestinians governing is concerned, Israel is going to find all kinds of excuses as it goes along. Even if Hamas agrees, you will find there will be 100 excuses to break it again and continue with what they are doing. But then to start with, there has to be some start point, because as of now, Israel is not being controlled at all, and there need to be some control. And I think President Trump has realized that I think there is a political cost to pay. So he's basically reducing his political cost, and why Netanyahu has agreed to some of the things which he was not agreeing earlier is again to reduce some kind of political cost on him. Because internally also in Israel he is not very comfortable. A lot of people are resenting. But then the problem is his hardliners are backing him. He knows he can't be without in power without those hardliners, so that's why he's doing it. Vinny.
All right, fair enough, sir. We've run out of time, but appreciate everybody who joined us and weighed in on this important debate. We take a short break now. We'll be back with more.